Good morning, I'm Teresa, the London organic grower. It's been a few very cold days, probably about the last couple of weeks, but today the frosts have gone, but it's still a bit brass monkeys down here on the site, and today I'm going to show you around and introduce you to plot 2. So this is the end of plot 1 with our strawberries mailing allure or azure. I'll put the correct spelling on the underneath. And this is plot 2. I'm just going to spin you around back onto plot 1 slowly. And we took over plot 1 because we had some friends who had the plot further down there, and we came to visit them one day and have a look around their allotment. I'd always wanted an allotment, but really didn't feel that I had the time to look after an allotment. I was working full-time and I just thought I couldn't do an allotment on top of that. But when we came down to visit our friends about, maybe about 13 years ago now, this half of the plot was had just been vacated, and our friends talked us into taking it over. I must say it was very difficult to do the half plot whilst working full time, so I have a lot of admiration for all of those people who do that. It was tough work. But about 3 years after we got this half a plot, there was a young woman, a mum, on this side of the plot with her small child, and about 3 years in she gave up the plot because it was very hard to manage. So we decided to take it on in madness, I think. And what we decided to do was to put it down as much as possible to perennials and perennial items so that we wouldn't have to do too much daily work on it. So I'll show you around and introduce you to the plot. So here we have our second shed 2, with the water butt, and at the back here we have our buckets where we make teas, comfrey tea, nettle tea, and when we can get hold of some seaweed tea as well. And this was the first bed we put down, which is an asparagus bed, and we'd had this asparagus bed for about 4 years, but it didn't really produce very much. So at the time we thought, oh well, we'll replace it with this second asparagus bed. And lo and behold, as plants do, you tell them that you're going to dig them up, and this bed and the other bed sprung into action, and it felt cruel then to dig up the bed. So now we have this very large bed of asparagus which do very well in the spring. I'm very pleased. It means that we can give some to friends and we can eat lots. Over here I'll show you so we have a couple of things. We have our Jerusalem artichokes, which we grow in this tub, and from here we get 2 very large bucketfuls of artichokes. I've only lifted a few so far, but these will be coming out in the next week or so because they'll start to sprout. And over here is where we grow some of our carrots to avoid the carrot fly, which has been, this year the carrots have been very poor due to both carrot fly and also a viral infection, a virus brought around by either whitefly or green fly or something, and I'll put the name of it in below when I can remember what it's exactly called. And then we've got a few freebie bushes here. One is a pear, one is a fig, and there's a black raspberry as well in there, and these will be moved this year. On the other side we have our fruit cage just here, which we put in to put permanent fruit in. So we have a range of summer and autumn raspberries, blueberries, gooseberries, red currants and black currants, and along the back we have a few trees that are fairly young, probably about 4 or 5 years. Cherry, plum, I think there's an apple and maybe a pear. So there are 4 cordon trees that have got a bit out of condition, only because I have no idea at pruning fruit trees or fruit bushes. One of the skills I've been trying to learn but haven't yet. So I'll carry on down this side. This is a bit of a storage space and a glass area where we were growing the physalis before, but we're growing them somewhere else now. So this area will be cleared and got ready for spring. And here we have our garlic and some residual beetroot. There are 4 different varieties of autumn sown garlic here, including on the left these larger ones along here. They're the elephant garlic. And then we have a Brassica area with some Cavallonero and some leeks and some spring cabbage. And believe it or not, we don't really eat kale. We've never really eaten it, partly because probably we don't know how to cook it very well. But we had a friend stay with us fairly recently and was cooking it, and we're really into it now. So I think that we'll be growing more kale next year for us to eat rather than for us to give away. And you can see we have some brassicas that need cropping now, some chard. This did hold some cabbages, red cabbages, white cabbages in the summer, but it has some spring cabbages down the end now that are doing very well, just down here. And this is the last bed of plot 2. On the other side we have a large bed of strawberries, which is Mailing Century. I'm not sure what I make of this variety. This was a new bed planted a few years ago, but last year we got really hit by the late frosts that we had in probably about April, and it wipes nearly all the flowers out. So we're going to give it a last year this year. We're going to clear out all the dead leaves, feed and mulch it, and see whether we carry on or not with this variety. But nevertheless, next year we'll be replacing this strawberry bed anyway, because it will be just over the 3 years for cropping. This is the first of our flower beds, and we grow a whole variety of different sorts of plants and flowers and bulbs in here, although you wouldn't know it at the moment, but it does look very beautiful in the spring and summer. This is the second bed of flowers. It has various things like dahlias and other bee loving plants in it. And here we have one of the beds that we'll be getting prepared for spring. There's some old lettuces that need to come out and be cleared and raked over and weeded. And this is a structure that we made. Let me go back a bit so that you can see it. For our brassicas. And we've been growing brassicas in here for at least probably 8 years or more. And we've never had any problems at all. We don't tend to do strict crop rotation. We're a no-dig organic site, or our plot is, so it's about feeding the soil. So again, we've got some red Russian chard here that we tasted for the first time and surprisingly liked, and some Brussels plants that we planted really early, but these were hit by aphids, and a tiny weeny, oh, you can't see that, and a tiny weeny little things. I left them in the hope that something might happen to them, but I don't think very much is going to go on there, so I think when I need the space I'll take them out. But the Brassica tops, the Brussels tops, oops, sorry, just there, they'll be tasty, so we'll take those. And then we have some purple sprouting broccoli in here, and we put this up partly because of the foxes and partly because of the pigeons. So we've developed this little structure as a permanent feature, but it does need a little bit of attention. It's a little bit floppy and there's some holes gaping now, so this is one of the autumn sort of maintenance jobs. So that is plot 2, and as I said, that we dig no dig here. Well, we don't dig at all. We're a no dig site, and we became fully no dig probably about 2 years ago, and once I'd retired and read a bit more, I realised that we were doing a kind of hybrid version of no digging, that in the winter months, for about November onwards, we would lay cardboard and fresh horse manure where there were no crops, and we didn't really grow crops into the winter either, so there was a lot of bare soil. So to avoid too many weeds coming up and to feed the soil, we put a load of fresh manure cardboard down, and then in the spring you'd get a lot of grass growing on the top of the fresh horse manure, and we would sort of dig it over, but we don't do any of that now. And I must say that since we've gone fully no dig, well, at least as fully as you can, we've probably reduced our weeding and work by 2/3, and it's made coming down to the allotment much more pleasurable. So this is plot 2, and the next video will be introducing you to plot 3, our third half plot. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Keep well and keep safe.